Welcome to the first inaugural Twisted Toast. This is going to be a podcast like no other. And I already give you the warning. There's going to be sex talk. There's going to be swearing. There's going to be shit talking. There's going to be fun to have. We're going to be doing pranks coming up soon. But I want to give everyone the scoop of I was sharing at the Florida Chiropractic Convention. I was like, I'm going to do this podcast and I'm going to bring on Miss Toast to be my partner in crime, my Robin to my Howard Stern, because this really started with I want to do what Howard used to do. And one of the dudes, Jeff Langmaid. Do you know Jeff Langmaid? Never met him? Okay.
I don't think so.
Okay. He works with Jason Deitch, and they're an interesting power couple because Jason's tall, handsome, tall, and Jeff's short and bald. Jeff's the evidence-based chiropractor, and there's Jason principle and stuff like that. It's funny because I once had I went to Oakland with those guys to go to the Hustle conference when I was starting Chiro Sushi, and that's what I kind of modeled Chiro Sushi Summit after, which was HustleCon. And I went out to dinner with Jeff, and I was like, "So, what do you think about subluxations?" And he's like, "You really want me to say?" And I love Jeff. Smart dude, smart chiropractor, and that's what they do. And he's the evidence-based chiro. But I told Jeff, I go, "I'm going to do this podcast." He goes, "So you've been holding back?" I go, "Dude, I've been fucking holding back." So on that note, there could be anything and everything coming on this show. I have the best co-host in the world for this. Why don't you introduce yourself?
Goodness. I'm Melba Toast. Some people may know me as Melba Toast. My doppelganger.
Where did you go this weekend?
Where did I go this weekend? To New Jersey. I went to a bat mitzvah.
Wow. Okay.
It was a good time. It's very interesting. Watch somebody put somebody on a chair. Looks really scary.
So they say you shouldn't, I've heard many years ago that we should be, a bat mitzvah is when they are turning 13, right?
Correct.
Okay. I was thinking about them when they cut off the skin on the penis. That's something else. Circumcision, which I'm still angry
about. That with their children, apparently without anesthesia.
And I'm pissed at my dad because I found out I lost 70% of feeling. That's what they say. I'd rather have an ugly dick. I'd rather have an ugly dick that felt more than a pretty little princess helmet dick.
Well, I don't know if I could tell you there's a difference between the two as far as the way they look.
I've just heard that most women think that uncircumcised is dirty looking, but am I wrong with that? No, you don't care?
I mean, I've only been with one guy who wasn't circumcised, and I didn't really even notice any difference.
Did he come faster?
I don't know if I could verify that or not, frankly.
See, I told you where to go.
Been a while.
Well, I'm pissed at my dad still for years after that. So you went to a bar mitzvah, you hang out with some, were they really cool Jewish people or funny Jewish? What was it, a group of Jewish people?
I'm going to say yes. It was family.
Family Jewish people.
I'm going to assume there's a bunch of Jewish people there. I don't know if they were all Jewish.
New York, New Jersey.
Jewish. I was there.
My favorite is the New York, New Jersey Jewish because they understand good food. Their culture.
There was a lot of food there.
Was the food good?
Food. It was good. It was diverse, actually. They had some really good tacos, actually.
We had a Molly weekend, and have I told you behind the scenes what my Molly weekends are?
No, I'm a little nervous.
Okay. So, and that's how my wife sounded before for the first 6 times of this. Once a quarter, because you can't do more than once a quarter or you'll fry your brain out.
Is there a race on that? Or is that
now,
just here?
There's people there's behind the scenes people like me who've done their own research. There's people that say you can do as much as you want. Yeah, but the levels go down. It's like the first time I ever did heroin. I remember getting shot up in with an ex-girlfriend, and I we're in a hotel because I manifested the heroin girl, because at 20 I was like, I want to do heroin because that's what great rock stars do. And she came into my video store, and 2 days later we're in a hotel and she's shooting me up, and I remember sitting there just going, I don't feel, and just having the most beautiful, I was like, no wonder this is the greatest fucking thing in the world. And then every time after that was never the same, right? There's something like that with Molly, I hadn't done Molly since I was in my 20s. I got hooked up. You guys want the hookup. I got the hookup. He mails it to you. He's a doctor. He makes his own mushrooms. He's got ketamine. He's got the cleanest MDMA. So once a quarter we do Molly weekends. And The sex is usually really, really amazing. And my wife always used to get nervous. Now she's the one even asking, hey, can we have a Molly weekend? We're due. Aren't we due? We were like 6 months since our last Molly weekend. So I thought it was going to be even better because it's been even longer. And we do it because it just opens up trust and connection, and it opens up like having clear conversations about where we're going with the boys, what we're doing with the business, what she's doing with her life, what I'm doing with my life. And it just brings this like overwhelming, like clean, pure trust, love. And then usually the sex is really, really amazing. Well, for the first time I've been perseverating on a deal that I'm working with a large multi-site clinic, the largest multi-site clinic, and perseverating on it, dude. Yeah. Perseverating. Is
that a made up word?
No, that's a real word. Perseverating.
Really? Never heard it.
Never heard like you kind of linger on about, like, you keep thinking about it, overthinking. I got a deal with on the table. Well, I thought I had a deal with on the table, the largest multi-site. So Friday I had a call with their marketing team and their human resource team. And at first I was kind of like, oh, fuck, this is like not what I want to do. They want to sniff test me out and have me try stuff before they fully commit. And I was kind of a little bit offended at first because I'm like 42, not 24 anymore. I don't need to prove myself. I proved myself for years. But this is a bigger organization, and I'm like, okay, let me get over my ego and shit. And I was like, the Molly weekend's going to be great because I'm going to get really tight with what the answer will come through the source, as I like to say. And I got my answer, which was basically, yeah, I'm going to show my money where the mouth, or put my money where the mouth is, and I'll prove to them, and I'll win them over. And so I'm excited about that. But I wasn't feeling that like sexy horniness time. I was like, I just want to talk. I was just like, I just want to talk like all. And I start talking to my wife about the fact that, and this is the funny thing. The reason why I wanted to start the show is because of Howard Stern. And my wife is a former score stripper during the peak of scores in New York City. So like the best of the best of the strippers. If anyone doesn't know the story of Scores, it was where Howard Stern would bring the girls in from Scores. They were always in there. All the baseball players were always in there. And I start just talking, Melba. And I'm just like, you're the, I've really had 6 loves before, but you're the ultimate one. You're the final boss, and you have everything of all 6. And we start going to, and then of course that opens up sharing for her. And she's like, well, yeah, I remember going out with like this famous boxer, and I think his name was like Oscar something. I'm like, Oscar De La Hoya? You went on a date with Oscar De La Hoya? Oh yeah. And Mike Tyson asked me out, but I said no, because I'm not into like, I'm not into like black guys and stuff like that. And like, I was like, and then Fred Durst why the fuck did I open up this can of worms? I go, when the drugs wear off, now all he's going to just be thinking about Fred fucking Durst and Oscar De La. But I had said to my mom when I was like 16, 17, she used to drive me to school, 15, 16, drive me to school, and we listened to Howard in the morning. And I always would say, I'm going to marry a score stripper. So I ultimately did manifest what you just don't know when the manifestation is going to come.
You got to be careful what you ask for and what you put out there, because the reality is it truly does actually happen. Not always the way you think it will happen, but generally it does. It's interesting.
So it was we had some great sex after, but it wasn't like Molly mind blowing stuff. So, and I wasn't there. I think she was more, but we got really tight on our business stuff. We got really tight on what expectations are for our kids. And so I highly recommend Molly for every couple. They actually have studies that you love research stuff, right? I know that you love that world. They have research on saving couples' marriages. I don't know. Would you do Molly with your husband?
God, no, my husband would never do that. What are you talking about? But I do know what you're talking about. Maybe when I was younger, it's possible that I might have done things like you're talking about.
Yeah.
And might have had some pretty amazing conversations with people that were very existential and very open.
It's different than the Coke conversations.
It really opens up your brain a whole lot, and it makes you all loving and everything's possible.
Yeah, anything's possible. But it's true. Like Coke conversations has an edge to it. Adderall conversations have a way deeper edge. And I'm like, Molly's like the purest clean, but I love still going. Kat calls it she's like, it's pretty gay what you guys do, but I love to hang out with a certain group of chiros. Let's just call them rugby chiropractors who are, yeah, they're the big guys. And I love to hang out with those dudes and go to seminars and, stay up till 3 or 4, 5, 6, 7 in the morning, drinking and doing lines of blow and talking about green books and shit talking on other chiropractors.
Because that's holistic hellness right there.
Okay, Melba, hold on. So when we held Chiro Sushi,
though, so maybe that was something about it.
So when we held Chiro Sushi at the Westgate in Las Vegas for the first 2 years, which we're bringing back, and it's going to be called something different. We're really excited about the rebrand, but everyone we used to whine about walking through the casino with the smoke and all that. And my dad, being my dad, was like, shut the fuck up. You don't understand how chiropractic works, then. You don't know about the adaptability. Which I think is what these, I have so many people that come into our space, dude. And the outside our space, like e-commerce guys and software guys who come to events that we've had, and they're like, holy shit, you guys can fucking party and drink. And I'm like, we go, man. That's the wear and tear in the seminars. You add in the last couple of weeks, I've gone and I'm going to the next one in Mile High. Have you ever been to Mile High?
I have not.
You lived in Colorado, right?
Through that.
Okay. So like Mile High's coming up. That one's usually pretty rough for me because it's a good drinking one. And also lots of like edibles and stuff. Usually, like one year we stood at the hotel entrance and just were popping edibles into people's mouths as they were coming. Like literally, we just hold it out, and people were like, "What do I do?" I'm like, "Open your mouth." Boom, put it in. And I remember one Dr. Laura, she was like, she was texting us the next day. She's like in a psychosis, like fucking trap. She couldn't get out. I'm like, what the fuck did we do? Oh, it was really fun.
He was subluxated.
Besides, you travel a lot. I just had a horrible travel experience with having to miss a wedding, which really, really sucked.
Oh, that sucks. I was wondering if you guys made it.
We didn't make it because it was going to be a double dipper I had to go to Atlanta and then to New York and then to Vermont. And by the time we would have gotten there on Friday, the wedding would have already been started. So I just called to the universe saying, okay, hold back and work on stuff. Yeah, I was planning on doing Molly there. I was like, oh, it's going to be great. Kat got a really sexy dress, and I was like really excited. I was like, oh, this would be great. It'd be love. Molly we're in a hotel, nice Vermont hotel with mountains. We're going to have the night. And she was stressing about that because she's like, our flight back was like early in the morning. She's like, I'm going to be like hugging people on the plane. I'm like, gives a fuck, like we're going to have fun. But I'm going to go to Mile High. I think you'll really dig this. I'm going to get a shirt. I'm getting 2 shirts from Mile High. The first shirt's going to be like, I love black and white shirts because they just stick out the best. It's going to say Cartel Club. And because the Mile High people, let's just say, I had one shit talker, this bald-headed motherfucker, Gonstead guy, who, funny enough, now coaches with my old partners. And the funny thing is, all those dudes used to do is shit talk this dude. And now he pays them money, and I can fucking tell you behind the scenes, if I was still there, they'd be laughing at him behind his face, telling him now he pays us money and he's still a fucking douchebag. He commented on one of my articles I wrote about regen medicine and why chiropractors should be taking over that. And I wrote another one that he commented about the death of chiropractic, which really all I'm saying is, but we got to start looking at chiropractic as everything. Chiropractic is everything. Like, I love professional wrestling. Wrestling is everything. You look at life, I can see professional wrestling intertwined into everything, from marketing to sales to business to culture. Well, I think the same thing about chiropractic. I think we got to stop fucking minimizing it and stop being afraid of like evolving and stop trying to define what chiropractic is. When we say chiropractic is everything, that's so he doesn't get the bigger picture. And I get it. They're the old dogs that want to sit there and tell you, well, that's not chiropractic. And I'm fucking sick of it. So, and all these guys shit talk along with one of the old professors that everyone fucking hated at life that now, slings his fucking shitty insurance. People will figure out who I'm talking about there in a second. He looks like a dude who licks his own cum after he jerks off. And he's a telephone fucking cowboy. Doesn't do shit when you see him face to face. So when I show up there.
Wait. Tell us how you really feel.
When I get there, I'm going to have Cartel Club and another one, Rest in Peace Chiropractic. I came to bury chiropractic this week.
No.
But I do think I think I look at EMTT things, machines, and I tell this to people all the time. I'm like, Didi started it with electromagnetic, like with magnetic healing. It wasn't adjusting. It started with magnetic healing. You know, how do we define chiropractic? What are you sick of this shit?
Well, I'm sick of that arguing, and exactly because of that one thing. Like, it seems like there's an old school and there's definitely a new school space, if you will, where it's this or it's that. And I think there's definitely arguments on both sides. I can definitely see how regenerative medicine does fit into chiropractic, because what are you doing? You are stimulating the body to heal itself. Just like with stem wave, there's a lot of docs out there that use that. Just like with laser, there's a lot of mediums, which, let's be honest here, the adjustment is a medium to help the body self-heal, self-regenerate, hence regenerative, right? So yeah, I hear what you're saying. Absolutely. Like, anything that we can do to help the body heal itself, which is the premise. But I also get the argument on the other side where they're like, no drug, surgery, all this kind of stuff. So I think that there's some people out there that would certainly consider, the regenerative field being kind of in that surgical drug arena, simply because of the fact that, you're injecting, you have to have like a nurse practitioner or a medical doctor doing it. So I see how they could argue that point of view. But I also think that perhaps they're not necessarily seeing the potential of, the bigger picture that's out there. Like, that could only further potentially help enhance the possibility of what the chiropractic adjustment has to give. Like, who's to say you don't put stem cells inside of somebody and then you also give them the adjustment, and that adjustment is going to help those stem cells be even more hyper able to help that body, because the brain is going to be able to take the information that it has with itself to that central nervous system, take that new input of matter, right? We all deal with the process of matter, the stuff of matter. We're trying to invoke change into that. So maybe it's going to take that matter and make it matter more inside of the human body.
Well, I was on the side. I had my year of hate straight, which 8 months out of it was really fun because I was a bully in high school. There's a bully inside of me still in there that just, it's just who I am sometimes. And there's also, what's that?
I might be a bully on the inside too.
There's a part where it's just like, I like to shit talk. I like to fucking, and I remember David Fletcher. I went to Cal Jam a couple of years ago and I got really big. I was blowing up because I have those periods where I blow up because I eat like shit and I drink a lot, and I don't do that as much anymore because I'm married and I'm happy. But I went to Cal Jam and everyone was coming up to me telling me basically how fat I got right to my face. And I'm talking to David and Nancy at the bar, and he goes, well, you are the guy who's like raw and if you can't give it, you can't take it. I'm like, oh, I'm cool with it. But I was on that hate straight for a year with a crew of guys, and they just were so miserable after the year. I figured out, like, I was with one of my exes she ran Florida Chiropractic Society's recruitment side, and I went to one of the shindigs, and there's like 20 docs in the office, and they all were like, I love chiropractic, and then they would like lower, but I also love nutrition, and I'm like, why are you afraid to hide? Like, why are we afraid to hide this shit? Because you're afraid that some straights are going to be like, well, that ain't fucking chiropractic. Well, my grandparents went back in the 1960s to get their master's in clinical nutrition, because after 20 years of adjusting and being in practice together and not in practice together, because they learned that they couldn't work together. Every 10 years they would try to work together, and then they realized it didn't work, and so they had their own separate offices. They both got their masters in clinical nutrition in the 60s, when the food supply was starting to get, well, everything that we're trying to fight now, and what Robert Kennedy's doing, and I want to get your take on some of that stuff. They were seeing their adjustments weren't holding the same, because there is this thing called thoughts, traumas, and toxins. And I think the future for chiropractic is not just toxins and traumas. I think it's going to be mindfulness. I think the chiropractors that are going to be more involved in this is the same thing that's happening in medical allopathic. ChatGPT is figuring out and diagnosing better than any doctor human being can do. The doctor, this is the strange world for, I remember exes are on the trail of this Molly weekend, so it's obviously a trend with my conversation today. But I brought one of my exes to go get her and she was an OBGYN, Harvard trained OBGYN. So we always battled about, she eventually came over to my side for a lot, but she got stage 4 cancer. I remember walking into the pick her up after they had her, whatever that thing, they go up her asshole and fucking do that stuff, whatever that's called. And the guy was just colonoscopy, and the guy is just a bumbling idiot. The gastro, he's like, it's bad. This is how I'm picking up my girlfriend at the time, and she's drugged out of her mind, happy, glorious. So the best time to hear you have stage 4 colon cancer. It's bad. So we're gonna move you along. And I watched that system, and I said, despite how evil it is, it's a fucking system. There's no fucking, he's not doing a day one. No. Obviously we have to do better in sales. Shout out to my boy Dan Bay at Close for Chiro. Melba's got something if she ever wants to jam on that with to help you guys out with stuff like that. But they just were like, you were going to move down the system. And I went through that experience, and it was crazy how it's not even a recommendation. It's just you're in a jail. You get clicked and stamped, and you just keep moving. And that's how they do it.
That's all they know how to do.
That's authority, though. That is authority. That's authority right there. You ain't no fucking, I'm going to fucking take it or leave it. This is what we're doing. And I do have some respect for the system of that in a way. But, we fought for years. It's just, I think chiropractic is everything. And I think that's the mode that we have to get into. So I was on the hate straight side. I was anti-medicate. I am now on the side. I think that chiropractors should have the right to prescribe. And the main reason is the main argument we've always had, which is we can take people off medications legally and responsibly. There are also times that I know you guys have dealt with patients that little chemistry would help if it was done the right way. Xanax, as a guy who loves drugs, and I love them recreationally, Xanax was prescribed, how it was designed was to be a 6 to 8 week. It was never designed to be you're on this lifetime. There are things that can happen. I've seen changes with my own children by putting on some medications that help it but they need to be combined with holistic stuff to not make it the main thing, right? And then you can that's where I'm like, well, fuck, if a chiropractor who is intelligent enough, responsible enough. Now I know the argument. Well, there's going to be chiropractic people that abuse that. Well, motherfucker, if you go to Google News right now and search chiropractor, every week there's a chiropractor abusing his authority and privilege by fucking taking pictures of women. I don't know what the fuck is wrong with this profession, but there is a big fucking elephant in the room that no one's talking about or no one wants to talk about, but it doesn't help us out that we're
What's
always...
the elephant?
The elephant is we got a lot of fucking perverts.
I don't think that's singular to chiropractic.
It's not singular to chiropractic, but we have data-wise specific compared to dentists and other healthcares. We are dramatically 30% higher with either getting caught, or maybe we're just bad at getting caught. But
or maybe bad at explaining things to people and why they're doing it.
Go more on that. Tell me more what you're thinking that.
Well, you have to have an explicit conversation with a patient because, we're touching people's bodies in different places. And if you're not telling them, I need to touch here, there, and then asking them, is this okay with you? Getting their informed consent, writing it down, making sure they sign a piece of paper, then there's less confusion. I mean, I can tell you something that I know that was on the disciplinary board in Ontario who would tell me stories about, let's say a young doctor, for example, was palpating the anterior rib cage of a woman from behind instead of straight on from the front. So of course this woman files a complaint against this individual, but it was actually, a mistake on the doctor's part because first of all, they're young and you know how it is when you're a young well, maybe you don't, obviously not a chiropractor, but when we're in school, I know
Dan Bay says I'm basically one.
Yeah. We're touching each other all over the place. And consent is kind of implied at that point because it's such a normal, commonplace type of a thing. But in the real world, it's not normal. It's not commonplace unless there's some sort of a conversation and a consent that is signed going on. And this doctor just at the time literally just didn't know any better. And he didn't know he had made a mistake until this person filed a complaint against them.
That's very, dude. And that's why I love working with you and having you here for those insights.
Well, that's a huge thing that we don't do, honestly. I think that there's a lot of us that don't write enough stuff down. I can even tell you from my own experience, write more things down. Listening to this person tell me the stories about the disciplinary board, I've always tried my best. But even then, nobody's perfect. But
no one's talked about notes. Notes are so important. And, I came from that with the OBGYN, and we went through she's still on medical. I mean, once you're in the system, you're always in the system. And I told her, we had a great mentor, a plastic surgeon, when we were getting to do the cosmetic stuff, and he said, pay people to go away. And I always live with that line, has always stayed in me. Pay people to go the fuck away. You're going to have people that don't like your work that are going to get pay them to go away. And I'm like, I always stick with that. And we got
unless you're right and you did the right thing.
His argument would be, even though it doesn't fucking matter, because you're in this.
If you can fight it and you're going to win, then do it.
I get it. I get it. I just
think that paying people off, it just shows that you did something real shiesty.
I don't think it's always necessarily the case, because you get, especially as you get bigger, you become a target. And I think that's one of the things people are scared about with growth sometimes. There's always the cliche lines, if you ain't getting sued, you ain't making real money, right? Like that kind of shit.
Look at Nicki Minaj, right? She just got sued by this girl. I'm not like super up with it, but I did see, they went after her for the money. She's straight up like, you do this again, I will sue you. But she fought. She didn't just pay that person off.
That's a good point. That's a good point.
She's like, you know what? I may have a reputation, but I did not do these things. And I'm not going to pay somebody off just to save my name or whatever. She's like, no, I did not do that. And I want it to be known that I didn't do that. I'm not just going to make this person hide. And anybody who wants to front me, fuck with me, fuck with you harder. That's basically what she said in her press conference.
I love that. I love that. I think that my thing was going through those experiences, and what you just shined a light on with the notes. I think that's really important. To me, collaboration, like even in our own space, like when we would have patients in the OBGYN office, what was the standard thing that would happen when they would transfer care? Their notes, and you call the other office and they would transfer the notes. That's nothing that's ever done. We see what we see in our space is Facebook. I need a chiro in this area, in this zip code. And I'll send them away, and they don't know, what your listing is or what you're like. It's crazy to me that we don't share that stuff. But
I think it depends on the doctor, because I've had plenty of people ask me for notes.
You do?
Patients that have asked me to do it. Absolutely.
Okay,
I've
good.
asked for other people, and I think every circumstance is different.
Yeah. Well, we went around the world, dude. Is there anything that's on top of your mind for our world, our industry, outside of our industry? Anything that's been like chipping your shoulder, or even better, lighting your ass up?
Well, it's interesting what you said about hate straights earlier. I never heard the term hate straight until I was out of a chiropractic school, and I had moved actually to, I guess, the East Coast / the South, if you will, because I live in the South.
The epitome of hate straight area, yeah.
And I was like, I literally had to say, what does that mean? Like, what is a hate straight, right? And then somebody told me, so it was like, oh, well, they hate you if you do anything but chiropractic. I'm like, that doesn't even make sense to me. First of all, how does it serve you or anybody to hate somebody else? Like, that's self-hate, ultimately. If you're hateful, there's something about yourself that you probably hate. Like,
you nailed it, dude. You nailed it.
To the point of us being secret bullies. Okay, I was a bully when I was younger before, and maybe on the inside, I might be a little bit too, but I try not to voice that anymore, because the reality is, like, whatever problems we have with other people truly are the problems that we have with ourselves. The book, The 4 Agreements, don't take things personally. Anything that anybody else does truly only has to do with them and their brain. And then talking about what you said about taking the clinical nutrition and the masters and whatnot, if you read the prologue to The Bigness of the Fellow Within, at least a newer edition, maybe not a super old edition of it, but the edition that I have anyway, was written by BJ's secretary and close confidant. And basically in that prologue, there is a section, and don't quote me verbatim, because I haven't read it for just a moment, but I did read it a while back. And I really think that BJ would have absolutely been into nutrition. BJ was all about anything that was for the natural health acquisition of the individual. And I think it's also foolish of us to not consider that, because think about how many, let's just be honest, hate straighters are out there with big old metabolic bellies. I'm sorry, if you eat Big Macs every day of your life, and I'm sorry, drink and do drugs every day of your life, the chiropractic adjustment is
only on the weekends. Only on the weekends.
The chiropractic adjustment is not going to save you for those things. Just will help you adapt. And yes, everything in moderation. I hear that too. But, BJ probably would have been into all these things. And especially when we're talking about toxins, we have to consider the things that are going into our body, because toxins typically are coming into our body from the outside in, like air pollution, pesticides like that, the things that we eat. So we have to be concerned with what we put into our mouths. And even to the point of what you said earlier about mindfulness, you want to talk about toxins.
Yeah.
Our own minds are often some of the most toxic things that there can be.
I think that's where this is going. I think that the doctor of the future is going to be all three of thoughts, traumas, and toxins. In that space, I mean, I have a psychiatrist friend who also has built kind of a competitor to Dunn, and she's brilliant and amazing. And she just tells me how recession proof and how booked up they are in psych, in all sectors of psych, because this world is getting, and you just saw that woman that was killed in the Charlotte. I watched the video last night. I mean,
God, so
I was, but you see his eyes.
And nobody responded.
And no one got, that was
that
the
guy
crazy.
Is literally dripping blood with a knife in his hand.
With this world needs, it's a cliche, but the world needs love. And I think that, I believe one of the gifts that the great chiropractors have is to love their people, and they love them with tough love. They love them with wisdom love. They love them with other love. And you're absolutely right, like about these hate streets that are like, they're not beacons of health, obviously. And we see that. It's funny that they're the ones that are the ones knocking. That's not chiropractic.
Hate makes you sick. Hate makes you sick.
They're also, the good news is they're dying off, and they're getting, it's slowly, it's closing down, because I am really excited about some of the new generation of chiropractors that are coming out that just don't listen to that bullshit and don't get stuck in that. It's also a broke ass mentality. Well,
it's like my philosophy teacher said when I was in school, in order for paradigm shifts to happen, people have to die. Like generations of people have to die for those paradigms.
That is so, well.
Wait, before you go, there's one other thing that I need to say, if that's all right.
Yeah, you do. This,
so you're
this
talking
place
about
we can say anywhere.
And chiropractic, and you're talking about Xanax or whatnot. Well, I will argue that point to say this. There is a lot that can be done in chiropractic that still doesn't involve drugs, that can help people relieve anxiety. For one thing, the polyvagal theory, and how we have a huge potential impact on the vagus nerve, where we can actually make fundamental change inside of the body without those things. So I hear the argument you're saying, because it does make life easier just to be able to give somebody something. And in extreme cases, look, there is a time and a place for everything. Nobody can deny that. That's why medicine works, but it only works in, honestly, emergency situations. That's where medicine truly lies. But chronic conditions, long-term management, like they say, there isn't a drug that doesn't have a desirable side effect.
No, and that's ultimately, there is no downside effect. The side effect of chiropractic is better life and optimization. But you're absolutely right. I mean, I had the luxury of being a chiro kid, so I never had, I got on the table when the immune system went down. That my dad, went into I don't see the funny thing is, I used to say, and even the hate straights do this, talk on the stage at DE and talk about, well, my mother had cancer, and she, I adjusted her and checked her 5 times over the weekend. I'm like, why the fuck aren't we doing that with our why aren't we selling the sickest of the sick with remission trip style chiropractic? I would get I also used to bring girls home to get adjusted, like my first dates, because I was like, we're gonna have a good night tonight, so I'm gonna get them adjusted before. Plus, they're like, your dad's a wizard. That was really cool. By the way, you also sparked me something with my dad there. You said confidant with BJ Palmer's. Do you think they were fucking?
No, it was a man. It was a man.
Do you think do you think they were fucking?
I don't care.
I've heard. I don't. I think about it all the. He was solely into dicks. What? Charlie Sheen just came out and he's like, it was so liberating. I'm having sex with men. I
love you so much.
So BJ, it makes me think of Jim Parker, and a classic story I grew up with. My father was on the beach in Miami when Parker was in Miami in the 80s at some point in time. My father, by the way, used to tell me when I wanted to be with one woman, that's very admirable of you. It just goes where my dad is a one-woman man now with Dawn, so he's been saved.
There's only a few animals in the world that are actually lifelong partners.
So you convert one way. But he goes, I was on the beach with one of Jim Parker's mistresses, and he got back into the hotel and the elevator, and two of Jim's guys were in there, and he goes, I swear to God, Tristan, they were going to put a fucking bullet in the back of my head. He thought they knew and all this stuff. I was telling the story, Jim Parker saving his cachets and also one of his mistresses when one of the hotels burned down he was in, if you know that story. I just love the OG stories. So like the Palmer stuff behind the scenes, always, it's one of those things I love to stay up at night and talk about. Did he kill his dad? I think he did. Was he maybe bisexual? I think he was. It doesn't matter, but it's fun.
It's so fascinating because I've never ever been the behind the scenes conversations I'm ever a part of definitely do not involve those types of topics.
Yeah, I mean, that's what happens when Twisty comes to your seminar. So look out, Mile High. There's gonna be some people really wanting to go at me when I get there and wear those shirts. Anything else? I think that's a great first show, dude.
Boom.
Awesome. Well, you guys stay tuned for the next one. We might be having some guests on. We're going to adapt and go be just like we are, open and curious to talking and discussing and sharing about cool shit and other shit that makes you go, And go. Awesome, dude.